Next up will be the Mayor's Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity.
Yeah, he had a 5:30. Good afternoon, Mr. Little. If I could ask everybody to please leave quietly. Don't take it personal, sir. Everybody's leaving when you walk.
I see. It's interesting stuff. How you doing?
I think I can almost say good evening to you.
Good evening,
We're at that
sir.
point. We have your written testimony, so,
Okay.
if we could,
Good evening,
if you
Mr.
could
Chairman
summarize.
and
Please,
members of-
everybody, please.
Just,
Thank
I
you.
think they're stable, so each council person.
Sorry, sir, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of City Council. I'm Mitchell Little, Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. I'm pleased to provide testimony on the Mayor's Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity's fiscal year 2017 operating budget. In January 2013, CEO was launched to align the city's effort to lift individuals and communities out of poverty and increase opportunities for low-income individuals and families. As Philadelphia's community action agency, the Mayor's Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity is well-positioned to be the catalyst and serves as the supportive infrastructure for the city's cross-sector efforts to fight poverty. Persistent poverty is one of the biggest threats to our city's prosperity. As of 2014, the city's poverty rate stands at 26% and includes 36% of our children, 24.5% of our working age adults, and almost 18% of our seniors. While the numbers have decreased in recent years, it means that about 390,000 Philadelphians live below the federal poverty line, including about 123,000 young people under the age of 18. So if you're African American, Hispanic, disabled, or living in a female-headed household, the likelihood of you living in poverty is about 40%. There is no single cause for poverty and no single strategy that can assist all those who are living in poverty. Effective solutions require coordinated, large-scale, and long-term social change. In fiscal year 2017, CEO is focused on the continued implementation of the Shared Prosperity Philadelphia, the city's plan to fight poverty. This plan is centered on 5 key areas: job creation and job training, benefit access, early learning, housing security, and economic security. In addition to coordinating efforts across those goal areas, CEO funds services to over 41,000 residents through efforts including the Financial Empowerment Centers, Benephili Centers, the West Philadelphia Promise Zone, Meals and More, and many others. Through CEO's efforts, Philadelphia residents are able to develop critical job skills and find work, utilize all public benefits for which they are eligible, connect to meals and services in safe and dignified settings, reduce hazards in their homes, reduce debt, and increase savings, and much, much more. CEO's budget consists primarily of grant funding, which has increased to $16.1 million as of the FY17 current projection from $15.9 million in the FY16 original appropriations. In FY15, CEO appropriated general funds for the Reducing Hunger Initiative, which was transferred from the Office of Supporting Housing, as well as the Child Care Facility Fund, which was transferred from the Office of Housing and Community Development. CEO acts as the backbone organization in partnership with hundreds of organizations in the Promise Zone. As a result of the designation, we have been able to provide many grants to civic and community organizations and provide college and career readiness to thousands of students in 4 high schools with the support of public and philanthropic awards. To do our work effectively does not come without its challenges, and lacks of diverse funding streams is our biggest obstacle. Our funding comes primarily from the Community Service Block Grant, CSBG. With these funds, we are limited to serving individuals who are 125% below the poverty line. That makes it more difficult to serve hundreds of thousands of residents in needs of assistance that are above that line. General fund resources also are in CEO's budget, which consists again of grant funding, which has increased to again about $16.1 million as of the FY17 projection. To do our work effectively does not come without its challenges and lack of diverse funding streams. It is our primary duty to help those who are most vulnerable, and who are most in need of the assistance of the City of Philadelphia and our office. I'm happy to answer any questions any of you might have for me today.
Thank you, sir. I know you and I just talked yesterday.
That's correct.
And I know great plans you have for this office. I know you have experience working under Ms. Gladstein. So I think a lot of us are excited about all the things that your office has planned. It's just one quick question. As far as jobs, do you have a specific target of what you're looking, particularly sustainable jobs, that you have planned over the term, I guess?
Sure. So I think that for the office, we have already invested in several sort of industry-led job training programs through 1199C
Right.
and West Philadelphia Skills Initiative. We're reviewing the progress of that work, and we're looking how to further sort of craft programs that really get at the most vulnerable. Again, I said industry-led, so a lot of times we consider what the employers needs to make sure that those connections happen, and those jobs are really both family-sustaining wage but long-standing jobs,
Right.
but also how to provide the support in what might take an extended bridge programming or additional support once those folks are on the job site. The other things that we're doing is we are invested in CEO. You heard about that program earlier, which connects folks from state detention to both transitional work and permanent employment. And we are also looking at how to do that both within the city and also in place-based strategies as well. So how can we sort of layer and complement our services, whether they be the financial empowerment centers, the beneficiary centers, and our workforce strategies to really help lift both individuals and families.
And I know yesterday you used the word collaborative a lot, so collaboration with various agencies and other groups, I think, are going to be very important. Thank you. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Gladstein, can you come to the table as well? My colleague mentioned sometimes we spend a lot of times when folk get it wrong, but we don't spend enough time when they get it right. I want to say on the record that when you guys inherited this agency, I had a great many concerns about its mission, its future, its focus, its direction, and that basically there was no plan. I want to put on the record today for everybody that you, Ms. Gladstein and Mr. Little, have renewed my faith in that agency. And I say that because whether I see you guys at Overbrook High School or whether I see you in the prisons talking to young men learning how to be fathers, when I see your mobile unit in and around the community, when you put together a substantive summit on the anatomy of poverty and then potential pathways out, when I see you collaborate with 1199C and their training of an industry, selected industry that has such growth potential and impacts the heart of single parents, many of them are female. When I see you dealing with the reentry issue, it lets me know that you get it and you got it, and that you're moving, you're not moving the needle as well because that's all of our job to eliminate poverty. But you're using the tools that you have to create the resources that are necessary. And I just want to personally thank you guys for your commitment to it. It's very easy to run and hide and throw your hands up and say, oh, well, we can't do anything about it. But I see the progress over time. It's almost like still life photography. You actually, if you go back to old testimony, I can see the progress that you made. And as an elected official and on behalf of my constituents, many of whom are in that poverty guideline, I thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. Well said. Councilwoman Gim?
I would like to reiterate my council colleagues' statements and say that how important it is to have an office devoted to thinking holistically about anti-poverty. Two areas that I wanted to ask you about. Councilwoman Blackwell held hearings last month about the issue that touched on the issue of food security, and particularly for young students who are on break or might see an emergency weather-related kind of situation. And I wonder if that's an area that your office might explore. So like spring break is almost a week, and holiday winter breaks are 2 weeks long, and that, for the most part, rec centers and other kinds of programs that run great food access and service programs in the summertime are not up and in play. And is that an area where you might take a look at? Is that something that might fall within your purview? And has that come up for, within your scope of work?
Sure, that's a very good question, actually. I think food security is certainly in line with our work and ingrained in the work that we do. We've done work historically as it relates to what you mentioned about summer of food opportunities and play streets and things of that nature, and Philly Safe Summer. We also create additional congregate meals with food providers, not only providing additional meals, but also connecting them to services, and also building infrastructure with those providers, helping them work more efficiently, both as separate entities, but also as a group. So certainly that's something that we find important. But the spring break issue is something that I think I find interesting, and certainly would be happy to talk to you further about.
Okay. And we'd love to follow up with you on that, I think, because
Sure.
I think some ideas came out of it, but it seemed that there was a lot of coordination, there's a lot of issues, and it would need somebody with an office that's able to move between different agencies to be able to do it, because any one entity is not assuming responsibility for the coordination of this issue, so that would be helpful. The other issue that I wanted to ask you about was, so I wanted to thank you for your attention to English language learners, and also that immigrant communities obviously have high rates of poverty, but have very specific and kind of unique issues, particularly around language access. They might face issues around less awareness about consumer protection rights and that kind of thing. And can you specifically address any initiatives that you're taking a look at to work within immigrant communities within your department?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a growing part of our work. You just mentioned the trainings that we just had. I think that's something that we want to do. I think diversity amongst our workforce, especially our outreach efforts through the Benephilly centers. We try to bring on staff that are bilingual, multilingual, and have sort of strength of community engagement through strong community engagement groups. So that's something that we are certainly working on, and we certainly have used translation services before. We work strongly in South Philadelphia, in the east part of South Philadelphia, through United Communities, and all of the different community groups and immigrant groups that have partnerships both in the building and through their network. And so we've been able to think about even one of our services, the Benephilly services, how does that happen in that type of environment? We've been talking to Toy about how do we use our mobile unit with a partnership with his organization. So that's something that we're really working
And
on.
how many
trying
languages are represented in your department?
Five.
Five.
Now. Yep.
And in terms of bilingual staffing, is there a percentage of staff?
So my staff is about 37, and I think we have 7 folks who are bilingual.
Okay, that's great.
So it's
Thank
pretty
you
good.
very much. That's not bad.
And that's something that we work on intentionally.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Yeah, could you speak louder and repeat your answer to Councilwoman Gibbons' last question?
In regards to diversity,
And staffing.
language,
And staffing.
so we have about 37 staff, and 7 of which are bilingual.
Okay, are they located citywide, or where is your office,
My office is at 1234 Market Street,
along with your team?
most of them. So we have staff through our Benephilly unit who still work at the mini city hall on 22nd Street. So we do community services there. But also that unit does pop-up sites, what we call. And so we do engagements with less, what might be considered less sophisticated shops.
Sure.
Civic groups who don't have the infrastructure.
Sure.
But we can come in for 6 months, 4 months, help them with the outreach, do the additional services there, because we already know that they have the trust of
Very
the
good.
community, right? And they already offer a valuable service, and then they get the experience of what it is like to have layered services. And I think that's what we're trying to push, both in neighborhoods and between departments.
Okay.
Let's layer our services, complement each other,
Yeah.
and provide not a safety net, but a safety trampoline. Where
Okay.
folks don't fall, they just bounce,
That's
right?
So what is a VITA site, V-I-T-A? And I want to get as many questions in before that bell rings, so you can be concise in your answers.
Okay,
So a VITA is what?
the VITA sites, the tax preparation.
Okay, so that, because I was going to acknowledge Councilman Alan Dom has been appealing to us to make sure that folks take advantage of the tax, what is it called, Councilman? AITC. So you all do that, correct? Okay. Any linkages with the Office of Mayor's Office of Literacy?
Not directly in programming.
Any linkages with the Power Corps that the managing director talked
Yes.
about?
Yes, Katie Wolfgang is, directly reports to me. She's in my shop now.
Okay. On page 2 of your testimony, you state that your office provided $109,000 plus to support the health department's childhood lead poisoning prevention program. So are you just a conduit for those dollars, or are you just a conduit for those dollars, or no?
So we use CSBG funding to make investments in multiple city departments. So that'd be Department of Health, Department of Rec, OSH, things that align with the work that we do.
Okay.
But help makes those connections. So lead abatement, healthy homes, helping folks secure permanent housing. Those are the things that we
How
really work.
reasonable is it to think that we could increase those dollars, since too many of our children are still being poisoned by lead?
I would love more funding.
So this number was dictated by whom?
Where are you, Councilwoman?
Page 2 of your testimony, you talk about the CSSBG funding supports the Philadelphia Health Department lead poisoning prevention program. Bottom of page 2?
Yeah.
Under, housing
606,
security?
308. So actually, we support them with $380,000. I think that was for one half of a year of investment.
Okay.
So we do 380 for the
Okay.
entire year.
So you applied for that number and got it, or did you ask for a higher number and this is what you
No,
ended
this
up
is
with?
the investment that we make. So we use
I see.
we use our funding through Community Service Block Grant, which is the funding for all community action associations, all
see.
anti-poverty agencies all
Sure.
throughout the nation. And so it is the work of our office to look at even larger departments like health, like rec, and saying, how can we leverage what we think to be $700 million to look at our same client base along a continuum and leverage those additional dollars to look at it at an anti-poverty lens. Because I think if we do that, I think if we're smarter about how we do that, how we access both folks from a preventive standpoint along that continuum, folks don't end up in crisis. Folks don't end up in jail. So I'm sorry, you did tell me to be brief, so.
So are you at the table of this task force that's being pulled together around this capital improvement initiative, so that the folks that you're touching are represented at that table for this capital program initiative that the administration is proposing, so that we're linking these departments together?
I am not. I would love to be at that table. But what we do, what table I am a part of is sort of working within my cluster first and foremost. And again, I would love to be at that table. But I think working within the new construct of the managing director's office, working side by side with all of these commissioners, DHS, Health, Rec, OSH, and starting there because of the health and human services piece, I think there are some easy ways that we can make some connections. But I would love to be at that table as well.
So that's a new paradigm that's in play here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I echo Councilman Jones. The work you do is important. It's for the most vulnerable and people who don't have a voice at all for them. So what you do really is exponentially greater than the dollars that we see.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you. I wanted to say I agree with all that has been said with regarding you and your agency, and look forward to working more closely with you.
We appreciate your partnership, Councilwoman. Absolutely.
Thank you. Sir, not everybody that sits up there gets this much praise, so I hope you feel good. There being no further questions, again, thank you for all you do.
Thank you,
There
Chairman.
being no further questions, the committee will stand in recess until Wednesday, April 6, 2016, at 10 a.m., at which we will reconvene right here, room 400, City Hall.
Thank you.